Hello, this is the Chronicles of Power Grid Design. So my name is Paul. I'm one of the system engineers in the back end. This is Corey. He's one of the other core software developers. Jonathan, he's a database researcher and developer. This is Isleta. She's one of the core researchers for economics and events and developing those in the game. And this is Alex. He's our core graphics engineer. So the original inspiration for the Chronicles of Power Grid game was that currently the power grid industry / power industry is developing very rapidly and it's evolving quickly. However, there's a deficit of incoming engineers into the field to continue that progression in the future. And one of the big reasons for that is there's a huge lack of awareness in the high school STEM curriculum about power engineering in general. A lot of kids don't even know about it and they don't enter into it in college as a result. So the inspiration for this project is to get kids, first of all, more aware of the subject, but also excited about the subjects that when they do enter college, they'll explore it more in depth.
So as can be demonstrated here, this is a model that actually represents what will be shown in the game. You'll start with a generator, where will either be steam or hydro-based, which turns a turbine to then produce electricity. Or you could have a solar panel, for instance. This then gets distributed through a transmission network generated from one of the following a coal plant or a hydro plant. By turning this generator right here, we can actually create power in a distribution system. Or by covering a solar panel here, you can actually create light here. And now we will demonstrate by turning a generator that we can produce power in a house. And this is going to be the basic method that the players will learn and follow in the game.
The Chronicles of Power Grid game is a strategy-focused, historically accurate representation of the power grid from 1950 to 2020 about. There's a couple main concepts that we try to explore here and really emphasize to the players, to the STEM high school students, and that is, one of them is base and peak power. This is like your baseload power that happens at all time, you know, your server farms, things that can't change. And then your peak demand is when people come home every day. They turn on their TV, they turn on their stove, and then like suddenly there's a huge demand in there. Well, we wanted to emphasize how the different types of power generation take these effects or these things into account. For example, a nuclear power plant can run at a steady magnitude at all times, but it can't change. You can't turn it off. However, a water plant or a hydro plant can turn on and off like whenever you need it to. So, you know, when the spike happens, well, that's what hydro deals with. And then there's a bunch of other pros and cons to all these different generators, like government regulations around the fuel types, weather, how does that affect the power output? All of this stuff we wanted the player to take into account when they strategize and build up a power grid. And so the core of the game is a player will enter one of 7 regions that are in the US, power grid regions that are historically accurate, and they will strategize taking into account all of these historically accurate power plants that exist in real life in the US, and we have like descriptions and power outputs and prices for all of them that are accurate to real life, and they will buy these up to fulfill a certain base and peak load. And the goal is to do it as efficiently as possible, and by having them strategize and do this, they will hopefully learn, first of all, why certain things or certain decisions were made in the past, and like how the power grid will develop in the future.
So starting off with the game, we had a few key requirements that we had to meet. The player moveset had to be dynamic and interesting for the players to play. There had to be multiple generation methods: coal, nuclear, gas, solar, wind, and hydro. With those methods, they then had to meet base and peak load. The device architecture, as shown here, shows how the graphical user interface connects to the front end. This then feeds into 4 different subsystems that pulls from generation and database information that was gathered by the team in these regions, which then connects to the front end through this channel in the interface. Some of the achievements that we're most proud of are the pan and zoom feature, the flexible framework of our game that can be greatly improved on in the future, a random event system that highlights all the key features of real-life data in the power grid that has happened since the 19th century and beyond, and then the fact that it's real-world generator data picked and crafted from latitude and longitude values that are accurate to the location on the map. Lastly, we have a version of our main menu here, and in the future we hope to incorporate multiplayer, other features such as upkeep and repair, for the generators. And then lastly, constantly expand the generator database so that it's constantly up to date with the real world data.